I'm Ryan Jackson-Saw. This is the Raw Report. I'm here today with Peter Manuel. He's returning with us today. Peter Manuel, for those who don't know, is the head and CEO of FLAG Australia, one of the biggest land advocacy groups in the country. Good evening, Peter. How are we today?
I'm really good, Ryan, and it's we've had a little bit of trouble trying to connect over the last couple of nights, but finally got there because of your expertise. Good on you. Well done.
A bit of good work on each side, I think. So, Peter, we want to get into a little bit of a different issue tonight. Now, we were just talking about water rights the other day, and basically what's happening right now is farmers are being asked to pay for massive water licenses. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's if you can get one. Don't forget that the corporations are buying up our water rights like there's no tomorrow, and this is why these water allocation plans come in, not because we're losing our precious resource water. I've done a lot of homework on this over the last 10 years, and I've come to the conclusion that the reason they've taken the mum and dad farmers' water is, I think I mentioned to you last time we spoke in regards to how water was separated from land. It's about stealing the water from the mum and dad farmer, making it a tradable commodity, and the big money people have bought our water rights. And it's disgusting, Ryan, and also think that people own water, as I said before, that don't own any land, to me, is disgusting. It should never, ever happen, and we need water restored to land. And that way, we stop all this speculation, and it has to be stopped. I mean, when we think that communist China, mind you, is the biggest purchaser of our water rights. Shocking. I think it's treason, to be quite honest.
Exactly how much of our land and water do you think that foreign companies own in this country right now?
I don't think there's a register on water. On foreign ownership, I know that communist China have got about approximately 14.5 million hectares of our agricultural land. And let's don't forget what's happening with our farmland. A lot of it now, the stock have been taken away. They're planting it out in scrub trees for carbon credits. Now we've got, more so than ever before, taxpayers, which is taxpayers' money, mind you. The government hasn't got money, they've got taxpayers' money, and they're buying up stations and they're becoming national parks. Now, these national parks, less food production, with carbon credits as well, with these farms going for carbon credits, less food production. We are in a very, very serious situation, Ryan, because with a growing population, we go on about how many times do we hear about we've got to feed the world. Well, you know what? This is all rot, because what they're doing, they're not worried about feeding the world. If they were, they would not be buying up stations and turning them into national parks and less food production. And these national parks, mind you, are just a haven for noxious weeds and vermin to go wild. They fill in dams and pull out bores and so on, so the native animals are not getting the water that they need. What's behind this is very sinister, and they use the environment and national parks to make it look like, we're looking after the environment, and they're not. They're not. Us farmers are looking after the environment. We have to look after our farms. We have to watch our water because it's the way we earn our living. And if we don't, we go broke. So farmers are the best conservation the world has, and we have to. And people have got to get that in their heads. And I really, really thank you, Ryan, for bringing this subject up, because it is most important. And the mainstream media, the fake media, don't want to hear about this. They are brainwashing our young people, and I think it's disgusting. I really do.
Mm. Well, I'm really concerned right now with the infiltration of foreign ownership of land, and especially of water rights. Foreign companies who are buying up these water rights and trading it just like a stock on Wall Street. Now, they're not paying any tax on that trading, are they?
Not as far as I know. Not as far as I know. And I can't remember whether I brought this up the last time we spoke, but when you're elected to Parliament, you don't have to declare your water entitlements. I mean, it's a huge business, huge business, and you don't have to declare it. So we don't know what politician has got water entitlements, and you know, this sort of cape is not on. And who would ever hide this from the people? I think a pure evil, to be quite honest. If I can bring up another thing too, Ryan, it's, what's happening here in South Australia. The Liberal Party, Federal Liberal Party, put up about $8.5 million. The State Labor Party have put up roughly $4.5 million to put low flow bypasses on our dams. Now, these devices take water from dams. Our dams, number one, are an ecosystem. Number two, they are there for our stock, and they're there for native animals to drink out of. They're there for frogs, and they're there for our safety in the case of a bushfire. And this has been taken away from us. They call it Flows for the Future program. Now, what they're saying is to people that don't know and trying to brainwash people is, oh yes, no, we take these, take the water away from the farmers, and the creeks will flow longer and so on. Well, I can shoot that argument in the foot real quick, because we've got more houses being built on our agricultural land than ever before. My hometown here in Strathalbyn, the amount of subdivisions that are going up are just incredible on beautiful farmland. So what's happening? You build these houses, you've got more concrete paths, you've got more paving, you've got more bitumen. So where that water used to fall on the land and seep into the aquifer, that water is being channeled now down the creeks and out to sea. So they don't need to take the farmers' water. There's no need for this, because we've got more water going down the creeks than ever before. So this is absolute nonsense. So I want people that might view this video to know that us farmers are not holding back all the water. It's rubbish. In fact, most farmers, and I'd say 95%, would be only capturing about 1% of the rain that falls on their property. 1%. So we're growing food, or aren't we? Or are we going to, rely on other countries to supply us with an inferior product? And you know what? If we're relying on other countries to supply us with food, what if they cut the supply? Where does that put us? In a very vulnerable and dangerous situation. We need total food security, and we need that food grown by the mum and dad farmers of Australia. Ryan.
Just tell us straight, Peter, do you think that there's a conspiracy to shut down the food industry in this country, the food production?
Well and truly. Well and truly.
What motivation could they possibly have for doing that?
Well, let's put it this way, Ryan. Don't trust the government. They're not our friend. We only have to look at what they've done to us over the years with leasing our ports, closing our manufacturing, our industry. It speaks for itself. And the list goes on and on and on, public assets and so on. So they're not our friend at all. This is all about communism. This is all about control. It comes back to free enterprise. Farmers, the mum and dad farmers, are a business. We're free enterprise. They want to shut us down too, like they have done to the little butcher shop, the little fruit and veg shop. It's all about the big corporates, and they don't want the little man. So they just want us going cap in hand to the government to get a little bit of money, and so we can only just survive. And that's what this is about. And if we don't get some decent politicians in there to repeal this rubbish that's going on, and luckily enough, we've got a federal election coming up. We might be able to elect some decent people in there that have got the balance of power in the Senate and here in South Australia in the Legislative Council. And that's why I'm really looking at One Nation and the United Australia Party, Craig Kelly. I think they've got some very, very good policy, and I know damn well that they will look after the mum and dad farmers of Australia.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a quick question. With areas where there is actually a bit of a water problem, more prone to drought, prone to lack of rainfall over long periods of times, places like areas of South Australia, some parts of South Wales even, why do they allow such heavy water-using crops like cotton to be grown there at the detriment to all the other farmers that live on that water system?
Yes, that's very interesting. We shouldn't be growing it full stop. And what we should be doing in those sort of areas for food producers is we should be allowing them to make bigger dams, deeper dams, so when it does rain, they can capture enough rain, because sometimes they're in drought for 6 and 7 years, to make that property viable. I mean, at the end of the day, Ryan, we can't do without food. You know, we hear about all this other stuff, education, you know, blah, blah, all this other rubbish, and yet food production is hardly ever brought up. And you imagine going with a week without food, a week. It should be the top of everybody's agenda in Parliament. It should be on every parliamentarian's lips, food production, how serious it is. At the end of the day, as I said, without food, without water, we're finished. We don't survive. It's history. That's it.
Well, let's say that any country is only ever 3 days away of starvation from violent revolution. So they need to be very, very careful when they start listening to the United Nations on food programs like this and start messing with our food supply, because it might actually turn around and bite them in the butt eventually.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, we should tell the United Nations to go and jump. I didn't vote for the United Nations. I'm sure you didn't. I don't know anybody that voted for the United Nations. They're a non-elected dictatorship, and we should have nothing to do with them, nothing. And yet we give them millions and millions and millions of dollars to basically send us to the wall, to dictate to us. And what do they do to contribute? Nothing. What do us farmers do? Work our flaming guts out, put up with drought, fire, mice plagues, floods, and the list goes on, and we do it, no problems there at all, but we've got to put up with the United Nations crap, this government, Liberal, Labor, Greens crap, and we need some big change, because I can tell you now, Ryan, you know, you young people are really going to feel the effects of this big time, and that's why Flag Australia keep fighting for our right to grow clean, healthy food. I mean, how many times do we hear, you know, oh, look, we should be eating a lot healthier and everything? Well, the government's got to let us do it. We want to do it. The government's not letting us do it.
What sort of policies could our government bring in that would benefit the farmers right now? Or even what policies could be peeled back that wouldn't be environmentally damaging, but would help the farmers out?
Right, for a start, if we need another dam on our property, we should be able to build another dam. I mean, at the end of the day, we do it at our own cost. It seems to be that the vineyards get subsidised and they get looked after a fair bit, and yet us cattle producers and sheep producers get nothing. We just get hammered, absolutely hammered. And we need that protein. We need that protein for our good brain function and healthy body, full stop. What really gripes me, Ryan, is things like we get charged the right to take water levy, whether we use it or not. I'll just give you some other examples that we've had to put up with here in South Australia. Years ago, they come out, and I mentioned before about how a horse menage, a square dam, they said it was a dam on this bloke's property not far from mine, and it was only a horse menage. But they're guessing with the amount of water in our dams. And I can back all this up, the whole lot. Whatever I say, I'm not making anything up. I've dealt with this for nearly 11 years now, non-stop. And I had a farmer who's now over 80 ring me up and said, oh, Peter, he said, they're saying my dam's X amount. I can't actually remember, because this was quite a few years ago now, how big this dam was. And he said, but look, it's not this big. So anyway, what Flag did, we got water surveyors in, and it cost us thousands of dollars to accurately measure this particular dam. And this dam, the Department of Water overestimated the water in this dam by 1 million gallons. That's a fair bit of water. They overestimated the dam. Now, how would you like if you got your bank statement, and let's say you were lucky enough to have a few thousand in there, and you looked at your bank statement, and there's a couple of thousand missing, and you ring the bank manager up and said, hey, listen, mate, there's a couple of thousand missing out of the bank book. And the bank manager said to you, don't worry, mate, we're only guessing. Well, they're guessing with our livelihoods. I'll tell you another one. This guy rang me up from Victor Harbour. And he said, Peter, he said, the Department of Water are coming out to measure the depth of a dam. He said, by the aerial photos they've taken, they're saying it's about 6.2 megalitres. In the Western Mount Lofty Ranges, 5 megalitres and over, you need a water licence. And he said, would you come out? So I went out. And I got there a couple of hours before the Department of Water rocked up. I had a look at his dam and I said, Phil, I said, mate, I said, it wouldn't even be, it'd be lucky to be about 4.5, 4.8. And they're saying 6.2. But I said, look, I tell you what, I reckon today it's going to be your lucky day. It'll come in at about 4.8. He said, what do you say? I said, let's just wait and see. So these two people come out from the Department of Water with these little fishing rods. It was an absolute joke. With a sonar device at the end, cast in. They were out there for a couple of hours and they're doing their little boat getting around. And then they come out and they said, oh, we'll let you know the result. I said, well, can you do the calculations now? I said, because we don't want to put this gentleman in the Victor Harbour Hospital. And they did the calculations. And guess what? 4.8. Phil looked at me and he said, how did you know? I said, if I wasn't here today, it would have come in at 5.2. And I said, you would have had to have a water licence. So the rubbish, the lies, the rot that's going on that we have to put up with, it's a wonder that we haven't gone nuts, to be quite honest, Ryan. And all as we're doing is growing a critical need that we all want, or basically we need to survive. And this is the communist way. Slowly work you down, divide and conquer, and so on. But we're not going to break. We're going to make sure that we try and get the right people in Parliament to repeal a lot of this rubbish that's going on, because we haven't been looked after by the Liberal and Labor government, the Greens, for years, mate. They're all in it together. Scott Morrison reckons this COVID, we're all in it together. Scott Morrison, you, the Labor Party and the Greens, you're all in it together. A whole lot of you.
So apart from maybe looking at parties like the UAP, maybe even GAP or One Nation, what else could farmers do right now to to help the situation that they're in? Because I've seen a lot of farmers right now who are leaving the land. They can't afford to do it anymore, especially dairy farmers who are under a huge amount of pressure. What advice would you have for them?
Vote the right way. Vote the right way. That's all we can do. Vote the right way, because there's no other way around it, to be quite honest, because the Liberals not going to change their spots. The Labor government's not going to change, and the Greens are certainly not going to change. So all we can do is, when you vote, give the likes of, and my choice would be United Australia Party and One Nation. That's my choice. And when you vote with a pen, and when you're in that voting booth, take a photo of what you've done. Take a photo of what you've done.
That's a really good advice, Peter, because they've just brought in something called Dominion software, and that's the same software they used in the United States. And there's all kinds of incongruencies that's happened with this voting process since then. So everyone should be taking really close note of what your votes are, and talk to your locals. Make sure that they're doing the right thing with those votes.
I've been a scrutineer and I see what happens. They dump a whole heap of votes on a table. Some go on the floor, and I've said to the people counting the votes, you've got to pick these votes up that are on the floor. Then that goes, oh yes, no worries, so pick them up. I've seen good votes go on invalid piles. So United Australia Party and One Nation, they need people as scrutineers at every booth. Every booth they need, because it's going to be very, very difficult otherwise. So that's my advice to people. Make sure it's a pen, take a photo, and for the parties to get enough people together to have scrutineers at every voting booth.
And for our listeners at home, that's a really good idea. Take Peter's advice there. Contact your local parties and let them know that you're going to be free on the election and volunteer yourself as scrutineer. The more eyes we have out there watching, the better.
Definitely right. Yeah, for sure.
I would like to thank you very much, Peter. Did you have any final messages for our viewers as well before we go?
Yes, anybody that wants to look me up, Peter Manuel Flag Australia Facebook or flagaustralia.org, all one word. I've been called a lot of things. I've been called a radical, a right-wing nationalist, an extremist. And I wear all those badges pretty proudly because all I'm trying to do is fight for the right to grow clean, healthy food for all. So all you people out there that are having a crack at me, I'm looking after you too. So Ryan, I do appreciate having this chat, and I wish you all the best, mate, and thank you very much.
You too, Peter, and thank you very much for the hard work that you do for this country. Yeah, take care.
Pleasure. Thanks, Ryan. Bye.